Good morning and welcome to this very brief MySID update video. Sorry I can't be with you today. I'm in Cardiff today working on the digital competence framework with the Digital Pioneer Schools and Welsh Government. But Kevin's asked me to put this brief video together to show you some of the changes that have been made to MySID over the autumn term, but also to highlight some of the things that we're going to do going forward to improve the system further. So first thing you'll notice if you go to the MySID login pages, obviously we've got now a much cleaner, a much clearer looking login screen. If we now log in, again when you arrive on the home page now, it's really obvious where to click through your school. I know that on the previous version it was a little bit like guesswork to get there, but this is much simpler. So if I go to Tristan Primary, which is our exemplar school, again, much cleaner looking interface now, much less busy, easier to find the sections you're looking for. First major change was in the self-evaluation section. Nothing's changed in terms of the layout. What has changed is the ability to archive your self-evaluation reports. Okay, so previously you could only upload one SIR because there wasn't the ability then to create a new one and archive it. Obviously that was something we had to rectify pretty quickly. So now if you go to the create evaluation, type in a new title, so just an example here. Obviously you can still upload a file if you want to, and that can be your in your archive from your own self-evaluation framework. Just choose the file, put the file in, and it'll upload. If you want to use ours, click on new version. There it is, SIR new. And if I go back up here now, you can see previous SIRs. So there's one here. I think this one's blank actually. So again, if I want to delete that one from the archive, I can. It'll always give you the option to say, "Are you sure?" "Yes, I am." And what's nice also is then you can go back to your previous SIRs, see what you've written, okay, in terms of previous years, and you can still get a printout of those as well. Okay, so that's going to be a useful feature as well. So you can download the PDF report there as well and get an overview of what you've done previously. So that's the work that was done in the self-evaluation section. If I go back now to the landing screen, no major work's been done in the school development plan section, but I'll come back to that later in terms of some of the work that we're going to do going forward. Budget profile as you were, except for the fact that you'll know that early in the autumn term we had the early years PDG grant in as well, in terms of what people were awarded. So no major changes there. In terms of school activity plan, I suppose one of the key changes here in terms of the interface is we've now ensured that when you go to this section, the biggest criticism, biggest concern that people had was that when the activities displayed on the screen here, they weren't in order of priorities. So priority ones weren't all together, priority twos and so on. So we're now grouping these by priority rather than by chronology, which was happening previously. So if someone entered a new entry, it would appear at the bottom of the screen and they would keep going down in that order. There was no order to it, and that was very difficult then to track and monitor what was being done under each priority. But now all the priorities are listed together, so you can see those are all priority ones for key question 1 in this instance, okay, that have been added into the system. So that's obviously a significant improvement in terms of getting those to display in the correct order. You'll also notice the unique identifier on the left-hand side here. That's been added because that won't actually display in terms of the overall report, but what that'll help us to do is to track in terms of finance. So activity 6657 will go into the financial monitoring system. It'll help us to track that activity through to see what's been spent on it, what's remaining to be spent, and so on. So that's been done really to reference it, so it's easy to reference backwards and forwards. Another change within the school activity plan, if I go to edit the activity now, again the interface is cleaner. Whichever priority activities are linked to, obviously that's unchanged. The description box is unchanged, timescale and monitoring are unchanged, but in the costing section now, yes, we can still choose quantities and attribute costs, but what we can also do now is we can assign different costs against different budget headings. Okay, now at the moment these are blanked out because the cost is 0, But if there was a cost associated, so for example, I know last year a good example was that if you wanted a TA funded partly by EIG, partly by PIG, and maybe a bit of core budget as well, you'd have had to have entered that as 3 separate activities, which is not helpful when you're building your plan. So what you can now do is you can assign it using these boxes against different grants, and that then feeds through into the financial monitoring section and will only show us one activity in the activity plan. Okay, so that was quite a significant piece of work, and I know that was a frustration as well. So that's now been resolved. So that's, in terms of the activity plan, that's the work that's gone on. There are still a few other things that we want to do, which is to fix the menu bar at the top of the screen, the top of the screen up here, so that this will display as people scroll down, so we can see what the titles are. Okay, but that will be a piece of work we'll try and do at a later date. Going back to the menu now, if we go into financial monitoring, the next change that we've made, the top half of the screen now looks completely different. I think it's much clearer in terms of the way it displays the information. So we've got the titles of the different grant headings down here. We've got the planned spend that was indicated in the school activity plan section, and then the expenditure which has been started to be added down here in the financial monitoring section. Okay, so it's much clearer now in terms of what's been allocated, how much has been planned and what is yet to be planned, what's actually been spent, the committed expenditure, and then how much is left overall of the grant. Okay, so I think that's much clearer now. And just to point out, I think most people have seen this, but there's always been the ability to filter by grant. So if you just select the EIG here and then scroll down, only the EIG items will show. So it's obviously easier then to track up and down in terms of the activities. There is some additional work that's going to be done to improve the layout of the interface here so that it better relates to the information collected by local authorities. We're hoping that work will start at the end of January and be completed so that the returns can be sorted at the end of the financial year. So that's some of the changes there to the financial monitoring part of the system. And then I suppose, what are we going to do going forward? What are the big items that we're going to be looking at over the next few months? Well, the first one is if you look at the school development plan overview report that comes out, you get quite a nice output in terms of the way it's laid out, the way it displays on the screen. But the biggest challenge here is that it's a PDF document, and it's not easy to pull the PDF document down because of the nature of the tables and edit it and personalize it, or add bits or change bits, or it's very, very rigid in its structure. And I know this is something that's been unpopular with some schools. So what we're going to do is provide this as a Word output document, so that this can then be edited and re-uploaded into the system through the school development plan archive in the school development plan section. And what that will hopefully mean is that that you won't have to create 2 plans. I know some people have been creating a school development plan in MySID and then a separate one that runs alongside in a Word document. The aim would be that you could put the information in here, and if you weren't happy with the output that came through MySID, you could simply pull down the Word document and then arrange it in a way that would be suitable for you. And I think that will probably solve the majority of problems in that sense. And then I alluded to in my last point, but one of the major pieces of work we've now got to do is to work on the versioning. And what I mean there is, at the end of the financial year, we'll need to do a financial rollover. So some sections will need to roll forward so you can start planning for the new academic year. So you'll be looking at your new self-evaluations and your new school development plans then from April. And you want to plan those, but you may still want to go back and review and evaluate your old plans. So we're currently going to undertake a major piece of work that will allow that to happen within the system. So you'll be able to access your old plans in terms of evaluation, but also start your new development plans, and that information will then start to feed through your budget profiler and help you then into your new school activity plan. What we'll do is we'll give you some more videos and some more information about those features as we add them. So hopefully that's given you a flavour for some of the changes that we have made, the fact that we're listening to your feedback, and we're trying to make the changes that make the system more intuitive and more user-friendly. We've also got the Joint Head Teachers Group looking at this and providing us with feedback. So whoever your representatives are in your local authority, if you speak to them, they can feed this back through to us, and we can look at where that would fit in terms of our development programme. One of the other things that we're going to try and do is to look at the types of account that are available, so that we can get a greater range of stakeholders into MySID, because I know that, for example, schools will want access for deputy heads, phase leaders. Some of our local authorities will want to have accounts for chief officers and so on. So we need to make a range of accounts that are suitable to the requirements of the person who's going to be accessing the system. So that's another thing we're going to be looking at, trying to add a few other account types as we move into the next financial year. So I'm sure now Kevin will pick up any questions or take any feedback in the meantime. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry I couldn't be with you, and I'll see you all soon.